것도 목표로 하고 있습니다.
처음에 좋은 모습 보여드리다가 뒤로 갈수록 되게 안 좋게 돼가지고 그런 부분만 좀 아쉬운 것 같아요. 서머 우승하고 롤드컵 우승까지 노려보겠습니다.
1라운드 때는 좀 기세가 좋았던 것 같은데 2라운드 때 좀 내려앉아서 그게 좀 아쉬웠던 것 같아요.
스프링 때 더 올라갈 수 있었는데 올라가지 못해서 많이 아쉽기도 해요. 서머 시즌에는 그 다전제를 좀 경험해보고 싶어요.
제일 잘하는 탑딜러가 되고 싶다고 약간 많이 말하고 다녔거든요. 좀 더 공격적인 그런 모습을 많이 보여주고 싶은 마음이 좀 많아요. 서머 때는 더 나아진 모습으로 뵙고 싶네요.
제 개인적인 목표는 제일 잘하는 서포터가 되고 싶어요. 마타 선수가 우상인데 이번 롤드컵에 꼭 진출해서 우승하고 새치포 소리를 듣고 싶습니다.
옛날 겨울 되살려서 한번 KT 오긴 했는데 저는 되게 만족스러운 것 같아요. 결승전까지 가볼 수 있는 그런 성적이 나왔으면 좋겠어요.
개인적인 목표는 플레이오프에 진출하는 게 목표고요. 좋은 경기력으로 찾아뵙도록 하겠습니다.
승강전이라는 게 되게 힘들었었고 쉽지 않았던 시즌이었지 않나.
다시 LCK 무대를 밟게 돼서 너무 행복했어요.
팀이 나를 믿고 따라와 줄 수 있는 약간 그런 선수가 되고 싶어요.
신생 팀답지 않은 경기력으로 좋은 모습 보여드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Summer 2020. I'm Atlas, and I have the pleasure of being joined by the Valdanalist today. He was a play-by-play yesterday and the day before, and now he has been upgraded.
I put on the suit jacket. I feel more like the president of the company. I slept a lot. I ate a lot. I feel really good right now, and we got some really great League of Legends coming in. A couple of names you might not originally feel like, oh, I gotta watch this series, in Dynamics and Afrika, but they're actually both doing really well right now.
They're actually one of three teams, both of them, are one of three teams that are undefeated so far in even games so far. So, you know, DYN, we're going to see them tomorrow, but we're going to break that that head-to-head of undefeated teams in our first match. So Dynamics versus Afrika. I wasn't expecting this to be that hype, like tie at the top breaking match, you know, but here we are.
Here we are. It's pretty big. It's Dynamics coming in and trying to prove to everybody that they belong in the LCK. They took out KT, I believe it was. Yep, it was a 2-0 against KT on Thursday, and they looked really good doing it. Honestly, KT kind of fell flat, and Afrika took down Sandbox. So
yep,
a couple of weaker teams,
Sandbox.
but they looked really good doing it.
They definitely did. And I mean, DYN also destroyed Sandbox, so maybe it's more of an indicator of Sandbox's strength, but we'll have to find out in today's match and also tomorrow as well. So confidence boosted, absolutely. But I think that this is going to come down to drafting differences between these two squads. I actually thought the Team Dynamics were really smart in a lot of their decisions that they made, especially giving comfort to a lot of their players, because this is, of course, you know, the first time in the LCK under the banner of Team Dynamics for a lot of these teams. And yes, you know, Rich has had experience on Gen G before. Kuzan has had experience on many teams, most notably being that of the Jin Air Green Wings. Rest in peace.
I mean, they're still...
no, they're not in the LCK
okay.
anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
And also we're franchise next year. Who knows?
Fair enough.
What do you think the chances of Jin Air actually buying a spot?
Buying a spot and then being accepted? I mean, I think
Do you think they could do it with a GoFundMe?
I think that's not very nice, Max.
No, but like,
I mean,
they have a lot of fans, and a lot of people want to see.
Brands,
They want to see. They want to see Jin Air in the LCK. And maybe a GoFundMe is a decent way of allowing everyone to contribute and afford the gigantic buy-in.
Could be. I think as a organization, they're so recognizable in esports in Korea that I would be sad if they didn't make it one way or another, whether it's a GoFundMe or if they wanted to spend the money themselves, and if they do get that spot. But we do have the points of the match here.
Yeah,
things that were interesting. I think Keen versus Rich, the top lane matchup is pretty cool.
Yep, and let's hear from the players as well before the match.
전 동료들이 있죠. 쿠잔이랑 리스랑.
플라이 형 또 만나게 되는데 그렇게 친하진 않았어요. 이제 약간 독고다이 느낌이랄까? 밥도 막 혼자 먹는 거 좋아하고.
플라이 형 딱히 안 친해가지고.
아, 계속 그랬어요? 저도 그랬거든요.
용준이 형 잘 부탁해요. 보고 싶었어요.
얘들아, 어쩌다 여기에서 만나게 됐네. 잘 해봐라. 그치. 아트록스만 하는구나.
탑 하는 선수들은 아트록스 못하는 선수 없을걸요?
아트록스 제가 더 잘하는 것 같아요.
긴 선수가 아트록스를 해도 딱히 문제 없을 것 같아요. 제가 평소에 탑에서 나오지 않는 좀 색다른 픽들을 연습 중인데 그런 샘플들을 좀 활용해야 되지 않나.
리치요? 몽골이 챔피언 되게 잘 다뤄요. 다재다능?
아 그래요? 뭔지 알 것 같은데. 근데 저는 원거리 챔피언 다 거의 탑으로 써봤어가지고.
긴 선수 제가 아직 신인이지만 그래도 저는 제 실력에 자신이 있기 때문에 한번 붙어가지고 꼭 이겨보도록 하겠습니다. 저는 트록스 왕이니까요.
덕담, 국어, 승.
국어 선수 맞나? 맞죠? 아, 느낌 없으시던데.
이식 선수는 나이가 좀 차신 것 같고 저희 덕담 선수가 이제 젊은 피기 때문에
아이디가 덕담이에요? 나이 너무 어리실 텐데 지금 좀 잘해 놓으셔서 좋은 선수가 되셨으면 좋겠네요.
네. 바텀이 이겨줘야 돼요. 바텀이 지면 게임을 지거든요.
아 모르겠어. 용준이 자꾸 챔피언도 이상한 거 하고 뭔가 이상한 변태 같아요 하는 거. 저 어깨가 너무 무겁게 만들어요.
믿고 있을게. 알아서 잘하고.
리치선에서 정리. 저야 뭐 그냥 탑라인전 딱 눌러놓고 정글만 먹으면서 보고 있으면 재원이가 알아서 다 혼내줄 것 같아요.
문제 없다.
다이나믹스가 기세 좋게 올라왔잖아요. 풍경전에서. 그런 자신감은 당연하다고 생각해요. 길을 꺾어 보겠습니다.
LCK를 한번 맛보여드리겠습니다.
빠르고 그냥 화끈하게 2대0으로 박살 내버리겠습니다.
Definitely some fighting words there between Afrika and Dynamics, and it is definitely a story of veterans versus newcomers, although there are a lot of certainly namestay names over on Team Dynamics. We're going to go over them right now. Doctor, certainly a very new player, used to be FaZe, as you mentioned, when he debuted. But Guga's been playing for a long time, Kuzan, of course, and Rich, both of them have been playing in esports for a while. Of course, Rich did spend some time on Gen G, but formerly MVP Black for Heroes of the Storm, and was an absolute god in that game. And so we'll see whether he can actually go up against Keen. This has been a rough matchup for him in the past, but Keen has been up and down, one could say, but so far on the up, with a couple of wins under their belt.
Yeah, I think that Keen looked pretty good in their last performance. Obviously, we saw Afrika up against Sandbox. I don't really feel like that's a good test for any team right now in the LCK, going up against Sandbox, but again, it's not like it was close wins, right? It was a big-time stomp, but we did see that from DYN as well.
My God. Okay, can you just calm down, Rich? Okay, so he's first in everything. This is our best top laner in the LCK. Weirdly enough, it didn't actually look like he was dominating that hard in their first series. It just looked like Dynamics had way better drafts in every single... They were the ones piloting the disgusting Karma draft that looked impossible to lose with the Callista Taric on the bottom side of the map. Callista Taric plus Karma, like... And you're playing Aatrox, you literally can't die. Like, that's the closest thing to being a god in League of Legends that you can get to. But Mystic on the other side, he did debut with a pentakill. which is exactly what Gorilla didn't want on the other side of
Yeah.
the Rift, and announced it before the game, and then Mystic decided that he'd do it again anyway. He showed what 200 years of collective being better than you can do for you.
He had the better champ, that's for sure. He also won on the Callista, and it's interesting to see a key player from Afrika that's not Keen. I feel like every single time we do have Afrika here in the LCK, we always talk about Keen and how good he is going to be. I still think that's the key matchup here. Rich up against Keen up in the top side.
Yeah,
See
and actually,
exactly how good Keen is.
I need to correct myself. It was actually
Rich.
it was Afrika that ran the disgusting.
Oh, well.
So both of these teams drafting relatively well. It was Dynamics that brought out the Yasuo, the fasting center Yasuo lane, which worked very well. And they also had 200 years under the sea in their final match, which was augmented by that karma that made Rich unkillable on his Aatrox. So a very similar school of thought when it came to drafting for both of these squads, and we'll see what's actually going to come out here, because I think that they're going to need to dig a little bit deeper when they're up against each other, because I think that the style in the draft is very similar between these two squads.
Yeah, I think absolutely that they are guys that are kind of like on the cusp of the meta, right? They're listening to it, they're actually drafting that way, and we saw that notably in their last couple of matches. In terms of actual skill level coming into this one, it's hard to say, because I don't know if we're going to see Aphelios in these matches. You know, we have seen a bunch of Aphelios picked, but when you're going up against Mystic, who just got a pentakill on it, and FaZe, now Dukdam, who was showing already that he's a great Aphelios player, I think maybe you want to let that one go.
Yeah.
Or, let it go to the ban list, I should say. But it'll be interesting to see how these two kind of draft around each other with their similar styles.
I do really feel like, mid lane for both of these teams very facilitative, but I think there are arguments for focusing bans on the top side and the bottom side in this series. And we'll see whether, the fact that Rich has first in every single possible stat is going to be a reason for Afrika to focus.
In 2 games.
2 game sample size, doesn't matter. I am a big fan of just being a slave to the statistics.
You saw the ones,
yeah.
That was it.
He was number one. He is the best. He's the first in every stat that we decided to provide on the LCK broadcast.
Sure.
Okay?
He's great.
Yeah.
Great player, for sure, as we're going to get into the pick ban here. Varus, guys, by the way, that's the 16th time he's banned out of 16 games.
Beautiful.
So I think we should be seeing some Varus nerfs here soon. Set, in a very similar fashion, has been banned an incredible amount of these games. TF and Wukong are a couple of current meta picks that I think are slowly rising in priority. We saw what kind of power Wukong can have. The other day, I think it was Rascal who was playing it. Someone was playing an amazing Wukong who was just like basically spreading out his clones and everything to knock up everybody.
And Doran yesterday was doing a lot of that as well.
Maybe it was Doran.
It might have actually been in that series. Is Corky's going to get banned and Dynamics get a free karma first pick? I find this very interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Take it away.
I don't know about that. I mean, Kuzan, yeah, he's a great Corky player. There's no denying that, but Karma is definitely one of these picks that you're not really sure if you want to get. Of course, they do get, on the other side, Ezreal Yumi, but Aphelios was never banned, and that's something that I was very surprised would make it through.
This is a lane that a lot of our Korean AD carries actually like on the Ezreal side. They feel like this is actually something that they're okay with. We haven't necessarily seen that work out in a lot of our games. But we'll see how it's going to work here, as Aphelios is indeed locked in. Yeah. It is a very flexible champion, is that Karma, so it could potentially be in the hands of Guga on the bottom side, but with Kuzan on the roster, I hazard a guess that it's going to be him piloting the champion. He is certainly very notable for a small pile of champions.
Yeah.
It's the Corki, I think he's most played of all time. Karma, definitely up there, and then it's Lissandra and Lucian. And they sort of like, they are the champions that encapsulate Kuzan.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling, with one of them being locked in here, it's probably going to be going to him, as the Trundle will be locked away, and there is the Graves. So we haven't actually committed to Team Rocket just yet for Afrika, but Fly could, of course, go over to his Zoe.
Yeah, I think that might actually get banned now that you're mentioning it. I don't think you want to allow Zoe to come out here, a champion that is actually quite nice against Aphelios, because you just keep your distance, right? You're not really interacting with him in his face, and we're both on the same page here, Max Analyst. The Zoe is going to be taken away, and also keep in mind that they're giving credit to Guger or even Rich to pull out the Karma here. So they are going to take away the LeBlanc and not allow Kuzan to play that one. Obviously, another Kuzan mainstay, as I think he's going to get targeted even more. So they're not believing that this Karma is going mid.
They also, they could be respecting Rich, who was a fantastic top lane Lucian player as well. It's part of the reason why Dynamics was so strong in Challenger last year.
Against this team, Lucian is a great ban, just in general, for sure.
We even saw Deft playing the Lucian very, very well yesterday.
Yeah.
Haven't seen a lot of bot lane Lucian for a really long time, so that was really cool to see. But probably not going to be happening just yet, and definitely not happening in this game, as he has just been banned. Jace also going to go, certainly one of Keen's favorites, and sort of trying to stop that poke idea that a lot of our teams have been having. As here is the Syndra trap card being locked in. Currently 1 and 2, but 100% pick ban rate so far. We'll see whether it's going to be different here. Blind picked into the mid lane. Not a bad matchup for the Karma, to be honest. You're happy just to sit there and farm it out.
Yeah, I think they're probably just going to let Kuzan pilot that one. Maybe we see a bit of 200 Years Under the Sea. What is that the name of it?
Yep, 200 Years Under the Sea.
Yeah, seems very likely with Nautilus available. A great combo with the Aphelios down in the bottom side. You let the Karma go mid. And now let's see what Rich wants to blind pick. I suppose they could pick a mid into Syndra and then let the Karma go top, but that doesn't seem too likely with the players
banned?
we have. So, yeah, probably Aatrox.
I'd already written it down, I'm not going to lie to you.
That's good.
There it is, and now Keen can pick whatever he wants into it. It's not going to be his Jace, but we know that Keen has a hell of a lot of champions that he can pilot. I don't know whether this necessarily fits the theme, but 13 seconds to go. Kennen currently being hovered.
Yeah, I mean,
locked away.
The Kennen is good into the matchup. We've seen it into the Aatrox, but I think you are correct in that it's not amazing with this kind of combo. He's probably just going to be going AP and looking to engage and allowing Syndra and Ezreal, Yuumi, Graves do the damage from the back, but they don't really have much tankiness on their side. And Aphelios is kind of just going to be in range of everybody. You know, everybody's kind of, they don't have enough range to poke him from a distance. So I kind of like Dynamics' draft here a bit better.
I mean, Afrika do have a lot of pick potential throughout the mid game. They do have a lot of laning power, especially with Spirit being able to deny a lot of jungle camps from the Trundle, as is per usual with his speedy jungle clear. But I don't know what a team fight looks like that they're going to win up against Team Dynamics' very, very standard front to back.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're saying. Very, very standard. They go for picks that really fit the players and also the current meta and that have really good win rates right now. Karma's got a good win rate. The Trundle's got a good win rate. Rich is great on the Aatrox. 200 Years Under the Sea doesn't really need a mention down there. They have their tanks engage, and then they let their AD carries blow them up. Whereas on the other side, you mentioned a lot of pick potential, certainly a lot of poke as well, just in Syndra and the Ezreal and Yuumi. And then King can kind of get it going with some teleport flanks or just straight on, you know, frontal engages.
I mean, the idea of this comp is to poke them down and then the cannon flashes into the backline and hopefully kills everyone. But whether that's going to work, we'll have to find out as we get onto the Rift for game number 1 of our 4th day of LCK Summer. I hope you guys have been enjoying the LCK so far. We started a little bit later than the other regions, but that's because we had a lot of aggression to get out. It's been really bloodthirsty here in the LCK.
Yeah.
For the beginning, I think that MSC did have a big effect, and we heard a lot of the players actually talking about the fact that, you know, they're going to take the more aggressive LPL style. Well, we haven't perfected it yet, because there's been some odd decisions made, but I like that we're trying to move it in at least a forward-facing direction. you know?
It's a slow-moving train. That's what the LCK has always been, I suppose, in terms of meta shifts. But certainly they have adopted the new style of meta over here, and it has been quite nice. I think Afrika have a little bit more room to get more aggressive in their comp, whereas I think Team Dynamics can kind of sit back and let 200 Years do his thing.
Yep. They can also soak aggression very well with a composition like this. A lot of inbuilt sustain into the entire top side of the map, and then Dr. will have that late game insurance policy, but we'll just see whether the Nautilus Aphelios is going to be okay in this lane, because Ezreal Yuumi is certainly going to be able to effectively poke out a melee support in this matchup. But you don't pick this for lane, right? You pick the Aphelios Nautilus just to have a lot more utility as the game goes on, a little bit more insurance. So see how Doctor's going to do down here alongside Guga. As that was, I've seen hitboxes on the dredge line hit in moments like that before. So I almost think that Guga was robbed there, based on the expectation for a dredge line.
Yeah, they're very skinny champions on the other side. That count on the book is not very big. One thing I noticed in the runes is that we had a lot of sorcery tree, but no scorch.
Yeah, there was a lot of storms gathering.
Not a single person. And we had like 5 or 6 people with that one. As level 2 is going to be hit here.
Yep, hitbox absolutely in. And there's the exhaust onto Ben. Mystic offering a lot of damage back, but it's a good trade here for Dynamics. Interesting when you talk about trading at this situation. Yes, there's Severum, so there is going to be some lifesteal, but if you're going sustain versus not as much sustain, those sort of trades are always going to favor the sustain bot lane. Yeah. So you can see Mystic already back to full health.
You know what's interesting is this is a jungle path that LS was talking about a lot yesterday. Graves and Jarvan that go from red to blue and then clear their blue side jungle as a nice amount of trade down here. But Beyond actually read into that and said, okay, I can get in there and steal some of the Raptors and I can steal some of the Krugs. So he's saying, I know exactly what kind of jungle path you're going to take on this Graves. He's able to come in here and steal away a lot of value. And now he's even in position. It doesn't seem like they knew he was here at all.
Yep, in he comes, sir. There's the flash forward, holding onto the pillar for after the flash. He is going to get it down there. Very nicely done. Stun comes in, but thankfully for Beyond, he is outside of the turret range. Keen had no other options, right? That was exactly how he had to play that one out, but it was brilliant that Beyond read that situation.
Yeah, and it really just all came from the jungle pathing. I mean, I think Spirit could have communicated the fact that his Raptors are gone and maybe he could go top, but I'm not sure that they would have expected that. Now Beyond is going to get in there, take away the scuttle. We do see the Graves going in and trying to steal away some of the camps that he lost on the other side. Camps that, by the way, Graves loves with his farming style and ability to AoE.
And we'll be able to transition very easily into the bottom side Rift Scuttler, so still farming very well, but Beyond also doing the same thing. It's actually really interesting, Beyond versus Spirit, two players that have been playing in the LCK alongside one another for a really long time. Of course, Beyond formerly on MVP, and we've spoken about this matchup, I swear, for like 4 years.
Yeah.
It's really cool to have that one back again. Fly versus Kuzan, another matchup through the ages. Certainly former teammates, Kuzan playing on Gen G, but before that it was Fly versus Kuzan in more of a Kuzan on the Jin Air side of things. But very cool.
Yeah. Did you see the call was picked up here from Keen up against the melee matchup of the Aatrox? He's actually going to get ahead after this wave. The gank does help. We'll see if they'll go for a follow-up gank, but it's not the easiest person to gank, or the champion, I suppose I should say, in the Kennen. And outside of that, everything is just going very, standard, slow. We're all just farming it out, and that feels really nice for the side of Team Dynamics. I think that in the late game, they're going to have a pretty nice advantage with this Aphelios and the amount of, support that they do have for this champion. And a lot of the weight in this composition is definitely onto Duckdom, but he's proven that even though he's a young player, that he can actually handle that pressure and carry pretty well from the ADC position.
He has so much peel though this game that I don't feel like there's that much pressure because all he has to really do is have the right weapons and attack move into the enemy. Because there's what? Pillar, there's the suite of CC that Nautilus offers, and there's Kuzan bringing him back to full health all the time with his Athenes and Holy Grail plus Inspire Shield combo.
Yeah. Trust me, though, you can still mess it up.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But
we also hybrid the other day going after that inhibitor. I just cringe every time I think about that, actually, nowadays.
Thanks for reminding all of us.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how far ahead you are, what kind of composition you have. If you're going to go in melee range, it's not going to go very well for you.
It's like, as LS would say, though, you know, if you've got hands, you can probably make something happen. And I think that Dr. has certainly proven that he does have 2 hands.
Yeah.
And he's also here. I can turn around.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, he's using both of them right now.
That's good news.
Can confirm.
No mouse-only players here in the LCK, thankfully.
God, that would be so hard.
Yeah. And you were talking about the drafts a little bit before we came into the game and how these two teams specifically are great at the drafting. It does feel like they've done a really nice job of crafting like the perfect comp for Duckdom to basically not have to worry.
Yeah.
And that's why it feels like everything goes smoothly and nothing goes crazy. You know, if Keen doesn't pop off, if, you know, Afrika just kind of sit back, I think that team dynamics should be pretty happy when it comes to later stages of the game.
But on the other side of the coin, Afrika do have a fantastic mid-game composition, right? So even though they're not doing a whole lot right now, this is not where they're strong. They're going to be strong at 2 items with basically everyone. Especially, you know, Syndra. She's going to get her Ludens into something like just an Oblivion Orb, and she'll be very strong in the mid-game. And Kennen always pretty good on 2 items. And Ezreal needs no introduction there, right? Even though he's more of a 3-item AD carry now that good old Death's Dance exists, but still the 2 items are very strong. So Afrika will be able to get a lot of control around that mid-game. So far, Team Dynamics have taken the first Dragon as Rich finds Spirit blind with that Q combo. Beyond's going to turn up though as King tries to dive forward, but he has no flash and the pillar is too good. They're able to lock him down. It's 1-for-1 so far. There's now Rich looking to try and lock down Spirit. Double buffs on the Graves. The World End is there, and Honey Fruit will make Rich a little bit more powerful. But meanwhile, on the bottom side, Dynamics are just obliterating this lane.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it's going this one-sided. We haven't had the camera down on the bottom side the whole time. There was that really good trade at level 2, and I think that kind of set Mystic and Ben back a bit because they lost 2 summoners compared to 1. But they should have been able to stabilize, and ever since then, Duckdom and Gugar have just been hard pushing. They used that priority to get the first Drake, the Mountain, by the way, which is quite, really nice, by the way, not even just quite, for their composition. And then after that, Mystic and Ben kind of just like left the turret, maybe assuming that Beyond would be there, but he was actually top, responding to a gank. So I feel like there's a little bit of a jungle, you know, some question marks about where the enemy jungler has been.
Yeah, that might Beyond. Yeah, that might be what's happened to the bottom lane, but I actually don't think that this lane should ever go like this. Very odd. But Mystic does have his teleport available. Unfortunately, he can't taxi on that one anymore, but Ben should be able to get back to this lane relatively effectively, as Beyond is the one to take down the Rift Herald. Let's have a look at this once again. Rich just...
There was a ward there that died.
Aha, that's probably what it was.
And you can see that the Subjugate goes off, which makes it much harder to kill Beyond, and then there was the Chomp, and then that extra auto and Q combo from the Aatrox that just blew up that cannon, which did eventually make it a 1-for-1. So the cannon ult was nice, but it also did, you know, feed over a kill to the side of Team Dynamics. I think that kill going early to the Graves, though, is a bit better compared to the Trundle. Trundle's going to get tanky, and he's kind of just going to sit there, but Graves can always use a little bit of scaling.
Yep, I would have liked that kill under Rich, absolutely. But a kill's a kill. You can see as far as the money is concerned, Keen only 400 in the lead. That will extend as the cull is cashed in. Now Guga thinking about trying to find himself an engage opportunity, but Spirit, right place, right time, will deny any aggression. But I mean, Duckdom's already pretty strong. I mean, look at the item comparison as far as battle stats. That's a BF sword in the lead. And that tier is absolutely doing nothing right now. Max range dredge line is fantastic. Exhaust goes down. Final chapter's in. This is 3v2, by the way. Is this pre-nerf Aphelios? Like, what's happening down here?
Yeah, I don't know. They're just getting hooked time after time, and Mystic had to flash away from that one just to survive, and he nearly died after the flash. So you could see that it doesn't seem like the two of them are very confident in this kind of 2v2 situation.
World Ender. Slicing Maelstrom in there as well, but Rich finding himself the Infernal Chain is good, but that was opting in for a trade that didn't necessarily work the best. Spirit and Beyond are going to find each other. Subjugate still available, so Beyond not under any threat of dying at this stage. Oh my god, I figured it out. I understand why Afrika picked this comp. There's no good Subjugate target.
Oh.
There we go.
Great.
Nailed it.
Awesome. That's really what I like to see. I mean, yeah, I suppose so, but
I mean, unless, you know, Spirit stacks up all of his defensive passive and stuff like that, and then he gets subjugated.
Yeah.
Bit of value.
There you go. I mean, they chose the Graves into the Trundle. Pretty common. And now they're going to try to force this Dragon here, but Dynamics is in position.
Keen, he's also teleporting in, but now the fight has already started. Slicing Maelstrom halfway through that cooldown, and that means the Dynamics steal away the Infernal Drake, and Spirit limps out of the fight with his life, but without the Drake. And this is Dynamics with 2 Dragons and the better scaling comp.
That Dragon was just so forced out of Afrika when they're not winning this game. They just decided, you know, we're behind, but we can try to force this. Maybe the Kennen can TP. There were no good TP wards. He had to TP in kind of behind them or with them.
What does he do after a TP? He has no ulti. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, man.
I
would have walked top.
It felt very forced. Yeah, I wouldn't have minded him taking a couple of plates and giving up the Infernal.
Yeah.
Just based on the way that the fight broke out. I mean, you can't force it from there. And Team Dynamics were perfectly set up. Rich was already there. This is what I love about Team Dynamics, is that they just seem really clean as a team. Like, their communication is spot on. They seem to always be in the right spot at the right time. Their drafts are really clean as well. You know, if the players get better and better, this team has really a lot of potential to show.
Yeah, absolutely. They just seem really hungry. And I think that's just fantastic. Especially given the fact that sometimes you can have teams like this that really start to flounder with nerves and things like that. But they've got Rich, they've got Kuzan, they've got Guga, and beyond. Like, 4 of these players have massive amounts of LCK experience.
Yeah.
But they had to deal with falling back into Challenger, not necessarily finding that top-tier team. So the understanding of what they've been given in this opportunity is really high, and I think that's really, really cool to see just what that has done for this team.
Yeah. It's a very exciting team. I'm really glad that they're in the LCK for sure. And they're showing it here once again in game number 1 against Afrika. I mean, we didn't talk too much about the mid lane, but Karma against Syndra is just so fun.
It's such a wash.
It's such an easy item build for you to just go Athenes, Mercs, and Syndra is never doing anything to you. He also has Unsealed Spellbook, by the way, so he can get Barrier, Exhaust, anything really. He's never dying, ever. And he's going to get awesome farm. And the fact that he's doing a great job, and also their bot lane won really hard because of just straight up 2v2 play that was unaffected.
Is insane.
It was unaffected by the jungle as well. I mean, that's massive.
That's 2v2. That's just being better in a 2v2. And I think everyone knows just how busted Yuumi is. Paired with Ezreal, it's also very, very frightening. Like, that is not how this matchup should go, by the way, guys. It's just, I guess they got outplayed. Guga certainly hit a lot of fantastic hooks during that lane, but the feeling that even that shouldn't have been that bad is now we're going for a 4-man siege here on the mid lane, and Mystic and a Cat, not sure what they're going to be able to do there. As, yeah, they're just going to lose this outer turret. Not enough wave clear, and Afrika look lost.
Yeah, they are definitely not on the same level as Team Dynamics in terms of their macro play right now. Team Dynamics are always one step ahead of the play, doing the right thing, bringing down their top laner for the Infernal fight. They're grouping up for the take of the mid-tier turret before even Shirley was taken. And Afrika's like, I don't know, I'm kind of just going to sit off by myself and farm and let this go down. And I feel like the Syndra this game is going to be behind for the majority of it. She's only really got one good target in the Aphelios, which will be good eventually. But, you know, you were talking about that mid-game comp. That still does stand, but how far behind can they afford to get here?
Not too much further, to say the least. I actually feel, even with the fact that Dynamics now having 2 dragons, a lot of the time a mid-game comp is powerful because you can stack those drakes and you can abuse the power of a dragon soul on top of all of those extra stats because your composition is just better early. Afrika have absolutely not done that. I mean, they're 1 kill away from being perfect gamed against the better scaling comp. So you can imagine that even mentally right now, it's a real rough situation for Afrika, because I'm sure they're well aware that things are not necessarily just going to naturally get better. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
Yeah. Thankfully for them, it is just the Cloud Soul, but Cloud Soul, I feel like it's not so bad for their team. I feel like there's a lot of very nice ults on their side, and they would love to be in position more so than anything else. The ults, most of them seem a little bit too long to, you know, spam a couple in a fight. Rich might get caught out here. Let's see how he reads that positioning. That was a little bit suspicious. And immediately he's like, no, I'm out of here, sorry.
Yeah, Rich's spidey senses are like really good, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, you don't become the faker of HOTS by not having some kind of like 6th gaming sense, right? And Rich is beginning to show that more and more.
And look at this. The rest of Team Dynamics read the situation as well. They put Shirley towards the bottom side of the map. She's going to headbutt her way to victory. Keen should be able to take her down before she... Oh, no. That is a disaster, actually. Now there is a clear inroad for Dynamics towards the bottom side. Doctum in the mid lane with the Severum Calibrum. It's not the Calibrum. It's the Crescendum. Too many C guns.
Yeah. 2 of them.
Yeah. And actually, like, this is the best if you're like in a fight short range, and then if you actually just add Calibrum instead of Severum, then that's the best. You're gonna do the long range stuff. So I guess they're the ones that we talk about a lot of the time.
Yeah, Gravitum is
that's
insane for like
the Ash Barasol.
Yeah, it's like in the early to mid game, you can just root 2 members or 3 members. We saw them try to dive in Aphelios yesterday, and it was just hilarious.
Yeah, that was when Deft stunned 3 people.
Yeah.
Something like that.
He got away, and then they gave up 3 kills just like that. I think they still lost that game.
They did lose that game.
Somehow.
There we go. Doctum is rolling pretty well as far as the guns are concerned. Currently ready to get some fights happening. But look at the vision control. This is beautiful from Dynamics. Look at that. Like, this is like what I would say was like old quintessential T1 vision, which is where you push up your control ward line over time as you put on pressure to your opponents. Still happening. Flash out from Doctam, though, is respecting Keen a lot. Spirit takes a lot of damage, though, as Gravitum will stun him up, but not quite enough to do too much. And Kuzan's just going to wail on a turret top lane, and Beyond is going to spot for him. So,
yeah.
It's just, this is Dynamics being in better positions on the map throughout this whole game. As how did that happen?
Did he steal it with the pillar, or did Duckdom get that one?
He did.
No, Duckdom got the one in the bottom.
Oh, did he? Was that the 1 damage?
Did he actually steal with the pillar? We're gonna have to see a replay of that, Riot. Can you?
Yeah, please. Jonas Strong. If
you get that back on.
It must have been. It does do 1 damage, and you know, buffs like that have a habit of sitting on 1 damage for a little while to avoid, you know, them being unfortunately stolen and things like that.
Yeah.
But that was the opposite of avoiding it.
Interesting.
Oh my god, Gugu has hit like every single one of these red lines.
Yeah, he's pretty good on that Nautilus. We have learned here. And the more that this game just slinks by in the mid game in this bit of a lull state, and Afrika just, you know, leak dragons and extra gold and experience on the map, Dynamics might just, you know, sail on with the very smooth wins onto the first win here in game number 1.
Yeah, so Valdanalist, looking down at the items. Ardent Sensor is completed. Runon's Hurricane is done, with Doctum having a gigantic amount of crit rate. I don't know what a Freak is going to be able to do. I mean, Mystic did get a bit of damage there. He does have his transformation. So he is a champion now. But I just don't know whether it is in time to actually save this game. As a minute and a half on that Cloud Drake. Dynamics with no real need to do anything right now. They're going to wait for that opportunity to engage. Keep tabs on Keen. Should be okay. King's Tribute helping Beyond out there.
Yeah, and we've entered a little bit of a K-Ram here. By the way, your turret's dying.
And this is all just Dynamics being better at the macro play around the map, right?
Yeah.
Because they understand that they can feel free to sit in the mid lane because you've got a lane that's equalized, actually pushing on the top side in their favor, and the bottom lane was getting free inhibitor turret damage. Which is just nuts. Now they're able to press into the enemy jungle, get all of the vision that they want to. Like, this is super textbook League of Legends, but it's being played out so well by Dynamics. Now they just move over to the Baron. It immediately gets spotted, but it's no harm, no foul, right? Like, they may as well go for that play. Now move over to the Cloud Drake because it's up in another 30 seconds.
That's something that a lot of LCK teams don't really do, is just run at the Baron. We saw in MSC that LPL, there I finally got it out. I've had a little bit of trauma about that region.
Yeah.
They are never scared to just run at the Baron if they have damage. They're like, hey, what are you going to do about it? You know, we're so far ahead of
was
you.
Winning as well because they were doing a lot of these, like, let's just see what happens if we go for the Baron. I mean, unfortunately, at MSC it bit them because they didn't quite make the decisions correctly as Mystic diving forward.
Mystic is so desperately trying to get damage that I think it's going to eventually
Oh my god,
bite him.
picks Keen out from the backline as now Beyond diving forward. Keen does get a decent ulti as the final chapter's brilliant. Docdump's going to go down though, and Keen somehow survives. Rich right in amongst it, but they're missing all of that extra damage. And now Dynamics not going to be able to find this next Drake. It's not the end of the world. One Cloud Drake going over to a Freaker is no worries, but they would have loved a Soul at 22 minutes.
That was actually a great play by Keen to flash immediately on the Aphelios. I'm not sure why Duckdown was so far down the lane, just ready to get picked. You were talking about the pick potential on a Freakus comp. It's like, you get out of position, they still have a couple of items, and you're not super tanky. But look at him, he's going 1v1 up against the minion wave up in the top side. Desperately tries to get into the fight, and he just gets stunned for the duration, gets ulted in the face, he gets stunned by the cannon, and then immediately they lose all their damage on the side of Team Dynamics. That's, again, this is what I was talking about. Aphelios needs to be available for these fights and doing damage. Otherwise, this comp is not going to work out, and you can see that Keen,
나 불렸어.
he was ready for the fight.
이거 앞에.
Yeah.
앞에.
Even switches
잡았고.
over to Ignite just before he gets engaged on. And
나 이거 텔레포트
manages to
있어.
light the Aphelios on fire. So, that is how a team fight looks if a Freaker wins, right? But the reason why we're talking about Dynamics having a much easier comp to play is that Docdom should be protected and shouldn't necessarily be halfway to the enemy nexus while the rest of his team is underneath their outer turret.
Yeah, you talked about front-to-back composition. They have a great one, but if it's really spread out like that and the pieces are all over the place, like a jigsaw puzzle gone wrong, it's going to lose to a Freakus comp even when they're behind, because one pick onto Aphelios, they have so much damage in their comp, they can win it up against what Team Dynamics have, as that time it looks like Spirit.
I think Spirit got it that time.
Was able to get the red. Sniper, by the way.
Yep, Crescendo, by the way.
Yeah. He's got the Poke of Varus as well in his kit.
Thankfully, there were some zoomies available, so Spirit is put back to full health. Another 3 minutes, and that next Cloud Drake will be available. A lot of soul opportunities here for Dynamics, as Guga is playing bodyguard for this Baron. It's down to half health. It's taking a lot of damage very quickly as the Freaker do move on forward. Spirit is going to be in position for a potential 50-50. Is now Rich looking for a flank. Keen going to be here as well. No flash, but does have Slicing Maelstrom. As, my god, the amount of damage there in AoE coming out from Dynamics. I think that was all Kuzan's damage.
Yep.
And he's utility, by the way.
He just recently picked up his third item, the Ludens. It's one of the amazing things about Karma is Keen is taking a lot of damage here.
Yep. Pillar actually fantastic at making sure that the Infernal Chains arm.
And and they've shown them out here. They're going to be able to get in here and take down the mid-tier 2. I think without a hitch, although that smoke screen, very nice. It's going to put a stop to that.
Yep. Keen also denied a flank there as Rich moves on into the jungle. But still, not actually able to get too much done here. Another 2 minutes, and then Afrika are going to have to dance around this dragon yet again. Pressure certainly still on this Afrika squad.
Yeah, they need to get something done now. I think trying to go for a good fight around the Cloud Soul is not a bad idea. Even though the Cloud Soul isn't amazing, you don't necessarily want to give it for free. I think they'll have a better chance before the Cloud Soul gets thrown over to the side of Team Dynamics. So try to get some vision down, try to get some wards, and maybe go for a cannon flank where you can find the Aphelios in the backline. Notice Keen has Exhaust, so he could definitely, if he gets in position with the teleport, he could just get right on top of the Aphelios, exhaust him, and reduce all of that damage.
Also potentially make Rich a little bit less of a nuisance as well and allow the rest of his team to focus a little bit more on locking down Doctor if he can. I'm looking at his items though, and I think that Keen really needs, like the reason why he's just inside lanes for this entire period of time is he needs Void Staff to really maximize his damage in the next team fight. Yes, you look down the line and you're like, there's not a lot of magic resist necessarily being intentionally built up, but there's Merc Treads there, there's a Hex Drinker now on Doctor.
There's enough.
Oh yeah.
There's enough to make that Void Staff very crucial, as you were mentioning. The Hex Drinker, I think, is a great choice by the Aphelios. I think he has enough damage against the relatively squishy members of Afrika, but you're just trying not to get burst down by Syndra Kennen like you did in that last fight. If you can solve that and then lifesteal your way up to 100 in a couple of autos like Aphelios does, then you're going to be fine. You're going to be winning the team fights.
Well, Rich is going to find himself a control ward as Cloud Drake will be up in another 15 seconds. Another dredge line is fantastic as the exhaust goes down onto Mystic. Rich finds the back line to that exhaust we were talking about is used on him as he then goes for the escape. And this is what the Dynamics comp wants to do because their AoE healing is quite large with Inspire augmented by the Athene's Unholy Grail. And Afrika, they're the poke comp, but they're getting poked as Rich just decides that he wants to solo himself a Dragon Soul.
Yeah, it's like the slow pushback, you know, the front line of the battle is slowly being pushed back, but it's done enough. It's already done its job, and now it can retreat. They pick up the Cloud Soul, and the poking of Afrika was not enough. It stopped Duckdom from getting right into the middle of the fight because Syndra, actually Fly was doing a great job of zoning him out with multiple orbs and always threatening that stun ult combo and having Keen, you know, flash and immediately get on top of him. But as you mentioned, I mean, Team Dynamics still won the fight because they got the objective they were looking for in that one. And now with Cloud Soul rather, they can move on to the Baron fights and future fights even stronger.
And faster.
Yes.
As well.
Much faster.
But, Cloud Soul is no joke, movement speed, great stat. It's not the strongest of Dragon Souls, of course. In fact, it would be pretty comfortably the weakest, but still very good. As that Void Staff, just too little too late, unfortunately, for Keen, as he just goes back and purchases it now.
Yeah. Well, Atlas, I feel like we're back in tip-top LCK shape. One kill every 10 minutes.
Oh,
we're about to cross that marker in 30 seconds. It's such a beautiful sight to see. We've shaken off the LPL from MSC. We've done enough fighting now. These teams have signed a gentleman's agreement to sit back and do nothing. And as we mentioned before, this is great for Team Dynamics. I mean, the pick potential, it's good, but eventually Duckdom, he's got the, you know, he's building up the items to eventually stop this. And you can see the Baron is getting lower and lower. I think they're just going to get in here. The Grave's not there on time.
Yep, all too easy as in goes Rich from the backside as well. Nothing Keen can do as Mystic Arcane shifting backwards. He's going to keep himself alive as they do take down Rich. But the Baron has been taken, and now there is 200 years of damage worth bearing down on them. One of the first dredge lines I've seen miss, actually, and that's going to get Guga's flash out as well. As somehow this outer turret top lane is still up. and Dynamics can head underneath it.
I'm so fast.
I know, it's
See
silly.
him run away from them, and it's like, oh, actually, we can't catch that guy.
You press Moonlight Vigil and then just sprint.
Yeah.
He looks like Jin after a fourth bullet.
True. Very true. As we're gonna take a look at this quote-unquote fight, as we did have a couple of deaths at least. It was actually closer than you would have imagined. King got in there first though, and Kuzan took the brunt of the damage. The only thing here is that Duckdom isn't really getting effective autos off. And you can see he misses a lot of his skill shots, gets stunned here. So they were thinking, okay, maybe we can take a fight after we get the Baron, but it doesn't really work out. And because of the shields, the Cloud Soul, the Aphelios, he's just able to sprint away from them like he's just laughing at them, waving goodbye. And they get the Baron. It's great. I think Aphelios should probably go Death's Dance next, and he's eventually just he's going to become a monster in these later game fights that I don't think Afrika's going to be able to handle.
It's going to be very difficult to take him down, absolutely. More of Malmortius is almost completed. Unless he turns that 12 Fields Warhammer into that Death Stance like you were talking about, may as well sit on just a Hex Drinker. To be honest, unless he's going to go for full slot efficiency. Does depend on how much money he has when he goes back next.
The Morello's effect.
Yeah, exactly. We've got Kuzan building towards his Rabadon's Death Cap. After that, it's just going to be disgusting. The amount of healing and shields that's going to come out of this guy. I talk about healing not because there's really all that much in his kit, apart from personal healing with Mantra W, but with Athene's certainly does help out, not to mention the added health back that you do get from the Art Center. So, I don't know, man. This is looking very, very scary for Afrika. And I think that Karma is just really, really strong as a champion.
Yeah.
It does make a lot of these siege moments very, very impressive. Kuzan's currently on the top side. Dynamics are just trying to utilize this Baron in multiple lanes to break down this turret. DYN's pillars have also been really good this game. But you can see Guga taking a lot of damage here as Keen looking for an opportunity. True Shot Barrage does do a lot of work. And Afrika have pushed them away for now.
Team Dynamics do a great job of knowing when exactly they can fight and when they cannot. They know that Duckdom's heal flash is down, and so is Karma's. I mean, they've lost a lot of summoners from the last fight. Meanwhile, on the side of Afrika, they have pretty much everything here except the Cannon Flash. You have to swap that over to the Ghost. They say, okay, we have Baron, but we can't really break the base if Afrika play it well, because if we make one mistake, if we move forward a little bit too much, then we're probably just going to lose a big team fight, and that's not worth it. So even though the Baron push looks kind of weak, I think it was the right play for Team Dynamics in that moment. You don't want to give Afrika a massive influx of gold right before this Elder Dragon fight, which is going to be the main objective coming up here in 30 seconds.
Yeah, certainly going to be a better opportunity to fight for Dynamics, of course, unless Beyond falls down. Fly is going to find a stun. Unleashed Power comes in, but yeah, that's barely did any damage there at all out of the Syndra, unfortunately for him.
Rich.
Beyond still has his ulti available, actually. And now going to be going back up to full health with his Warmogs. Yeah. Now Duckdom frontlining here, gets a cheeky auto attack there onto Keen. Just looking for his opportunity. Flash has now been put back on. And Afrika have one more fight in them. And it's all about Keen and what he can do to lock up the back line while the rest of Afrika focus down their targets. Can Dynamics actually utilize Duckdom here as another dredge line comes in? Moonlight Vigil out as well, as there's the final chapter Beyond. Very, very low, but Guga, he's very tanky. And now Rich does find Keen, stops him from getting into that back line, as Afrika look like they're not ready to fight right now. They're just trying to bide their time for the best opportunity.
That was a lot used to not get much. You know, you're basically hitting tanks. Beyond has Warmogs. He's fine to take that huge damage.
Oh, Keen in trouble though. Does go golden. As now Mystic gets caught up with another one. Moonlight Vigil comes out as all of the ultimate cooldown reduction is just insane. Calibrum. Yep, everything's just super balanced here over on the Aphelios side of things, but this Elder Dragon is going to make things a whole lot worse. As it does reset a little bit, and yeah, Spirit is just going to get gate kept by Rich. World Ender up once again. Mystic's trying to hit him where he can. Exhaust goes down as now they're trying to pull this one out of the pit. Looks like Dynamics aren't really interested in coin flipping this one.
They are so safe, man.
But look at the base.
Yeah. Meanwhile.
Yeah, Dynamics just had way too much control. Spirit had to actually flash back out as Quick Draw not available. That is a free Elder Drake and an inside track towards all of these open inhibitors and Nexus and inhibitor turrets.
Yeah. Duck Dom, it didn't look like he did much in that fight, but that's only because Yuumi is doing a disgusting amount of healing. He did over 6,000 damage in that last one and single-handedly zoned 4 members of Afrika in that fight. He's picked up the death stance. He's basically full builds now, and I think the timer is up here for Afrika. I'm really not sure what they can do, especially up against Elder, and now Baron. That is going to be coming in here pretty free for Team Dynamics. We talked about this yesterday, how Syndra's not great into a lot of tanks. Well, she's really not great into a lot of tanks plus Karma. I feel like Fly has been doing a really great job at trying to facilitate picks for his team's pick comp. But eventually, the Syndra is falling off. It's falling off hard. He's desperately trying to get a
death cap.
Death cap. I keep thinking about Death Stance. It's such a great item. And he wasn't even able to pick up the Void Staff either because he went Morello's, and there's now a huge amount of MR on the side of Team Dynamics. So it feels like the Syndra's really doing nothing at this point in time.
Ooh, Dredgeline barely missing on the Mystic there as this inhibitor goes down for free. Top one has respawned, and that one probably likely to go down pretty soon too, as it looks like Dynamics going to play this one by the book. Currently ahead, 11,000 gold, and Afrika only have a Cloud Drake as far as objectives to talk about. Shelly and Shirley both went to Dynamics. They now have the Cloud Soul. They have 2 Barons. They had an Elder Drake, which still is active for another 30 seconds. This is most definitely going to be the end of the game here. Afrika's comp never really got off the ground, especially not when it needed to. As look at how quickly these Nexus turrets fall down. Spirit getting zoned out by Rich on his famous Aatrox. And these Nexus turrets, they just don't stand a chance. Beyond, down to about half health here as Rich is trying to do what he can. Fly gets flashed on by the Aatrox. Oh my god, just walks away. Cool guys don't look at explosions. And speaking of explosions, the Nexus is dead. Team Dynamics continue their onslaught in the LCK.
Team Dynamics looking really clean here in game number 1. Kind of reminded me of the old, Samsung Galaxy T1 style of play where it's the games have these massive lull states and you're like, what are they doing? But it's all carefully crafted and they eventually get there with that scaling composition, and it looks really, really good as I have to vote for player of the game.
Yeah, you're
Max,
a pog
you
boy
talk.
now. Yeah, you have to do some thinking about who you think deserves that one. I think a lot of players played really well, so I don't envy your position, but I just had a sneak peek, and I agree. I think it was definitely fantastic this game. The fact that the bottom lane was able to win so hard. Ezreal Yuumi, I think everyone has seen the disgusting things that combo can do. But
it's totally neutralized
in that game. No, they got smashed. It wasn't neutralized. They lost incredibly hard. There's 4 turret plates in just 2v2. When it's melee versus double range, I don't know, man.
And there was really no jungle influence at all into the bottom lane. I mean, I think that Trundle showed up there once, and he was on vision, so that might have scared them a little bit. But outside of that, it was a very clean 2v2 that just straight up went in the direction of Team Dynamics there. So an underrated bot duo for sure in Duck Dom and Googer, but at the same time, you have to remember that Afrika did give them Aphelios Nautilus.
Yeah.
And they didn't ban the Nautilus. Nautilus was picked in the second stage. This was all kind of just given to Team Dynamics, and they were allowed to craft this beautiful front-to-back late-game composition, and they played it perfectly. So I feel like props should be given to Team Dynamics, but I want to see a better draft from Afrika as well.
I want to see Karma bans because both of these teams play fantastically well with Karma, and the fact that the Corki got banned instead of the Karma is just ridiculous. Karma offers so much more. I feel like you can deal with a Corki, but dealing with a Karma is so much harder. And yeah, I think that Afrika threw a gauntlet, and unfortunately it came back around and hit him in the face. It might have been an accidental boomerang.
Yeah.
It's not great. Not good to see. But still, it's a best of 3. So Afrika can find their way back into this one. Dynamics, though, just looking better as a team after game number 1. And so we'll see whether Afrika do have the answer for it. I don't think it was all down to composition. I think a lot of it came down to being better prepared and being a little bit more disciplined with how the macro did play out.
Yeah, the macro is great from Team Dynamics as a whole. I think they were just much more focused from Afrika in this game. And then, of course, the bot difference was pretty large. So there are a lot of things for Afrika to shore up, and they do have a chance to come back here in game number 2. You and I were talking about this before. We were expecting Team Dynamics to win this one, but I was expecting it to be a little bit closer than that game number 1 showed us. So I'm hoping that Afrika can come back.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to see some different bot lane matchups as well. Hopefully Mystic can find himself some more comfort, maybe another pentakill. But that'll have to be after a short break, guys. We'll see you for game number 2 in just a bit.
내 타워로 천천히, 내 타워로 천천히.
신들아. 안 맞다.
내 타워로 천천히.
네, 타워로 천천히.
나 많더라. 넣어. 오케이.
타워 치면 끝날 것 같은데.
신들아 죽었어.
넥서스 치던가.
넥서스.
이거 얘들 다 잡자, 그냥 다 잡자, 여기 다 잡자.
나이스.
미안해, 나 플래시 잘못 써서.
괜찮아. 나이스.
완벽했다. 나를 둘러싼 모든 것들이 완벽했다.
강팀주님, 요즘 서브팀 경기 잘 안 보시는 것 같아요. 트렁크 한번 봐봐요. 거기에 뭐 숨기는 것 같던데?
선우, 해설하다가 급하게 나갔어. 너한테 가는 것 같다.
조심해. 동부팀 경기 보는 거 눈치챈 것 같아.
동부팀 경기 봤어?
I saw it. 봤어. 꿀잼.
나도 봤어. 허니잼.
모든 게 완벽했다. 나를 둘러싼 모두가 완벽하게 나를 속이고 있었다. 재밌니?
혹시 너 알고 있었어? 어우, 야, 태호 그 자식이 꿀잼이라고 한 경기만 보자 그래서.
나 몰래 동부 경기도 같이 보고 네가 내 친구가 맞긴 하니?
당연하지.
그렇다면 분석 똑바로 해 이제부터! 재혁 씨, 대체 왜 동부는 재밌는 거야?
선우 씨 괜찮아요? 선우 씨. 뭐야? 선우 씨 괜찮아요? 뭐요? 한옥 씨.
더 이상 강팀준이 아닌 거야?
난 네가 사랑에 빠진 게 죄는 아니잖아. 꿀잼.
이런 갓나 새끼.
너도 보고 싶잖아. 동부팀 경기 보고 싶어 죽겠잖아, 당신. 아니야?
이게 나야.
엄마 아빠 뭐가 그렇게 쉬워? 아니 언제는 강팀이 최고라며. 내가 미치겠는 거 동부팀과 서부팀을 동시에 좋아한다는 거야.
그러게 남의 바로는 함부로 치는 게 아닌데.
맞아요. 저 싱글이라고요. 혼자 사는 게 무슨 문제인지 말씀을 해보시라고요.
LCK 걱정하지 마. 내가 후원하도록 하지. 진행시켜.
저도 LCK 들어가고 싶은데.
찬성 하시는 분?
난 찬성.
건더영.
저도 찬성이에요.
Welcome back 2020 LCK Summer Split. It was Dynamic versus Africa game number 1. Dynamics are continuing their winning streak at here Low Park. They're on a 7-game winning streak so far, undefeated.
오늘은 연승을 노리는 두 팀이 만났습니다.
Today's winner will come out on top of LCK standings, and Dynamics was the one to go one step closer to the result.
그렇죠.
Africa once again opened their Aatrox up against Dynamics, and they traded Azrael and Aphelios. They were looking for that Azrael or Aphelios ending. They were really smart going into that draft fight, but at the same time, Dynamics' smart rotation outclassed that of Africa Freaks. So we want to focus on how Dynamics pulled off this kind of very smart and intelligent rotation. That first dragon was the start of everything. With the spot lane priority and vertical jungling, Dynamics was able to start the dragon. Ezreal was trying to push this wave and return to base and TP back. But while they were starting this dragon, Dynamics actually made Aphelios to return to base early. Well, Ezreal and Yuumi tried to take a safe recall to the base, but Aphelios returned to lane faster than they anticipated. And once again, Ezreal's recall got interrupted by Nautilus, so they made him to waste a lot of time. So this is where the huge denial of the bot lane started, and LS will be so happy to see this wave freeze. With no turret dive pressure, Dynamics bot duo was having a really good time and very comfortable time. And the later jungle path also had a huge impact on the result of this game. So after that recall, Trundle was invading the enemy blue buff, and Graves was also trying to counter jungle Trundle. So because of this location of Trundle, Ezreal felt the pressure of turret dive, so he had to walk down the lane instead of using his TP. And they expected that Trundle will come for a turret dive, but instead Trundle rushes to topside to cover gank Graves. Africa players, they thought that indeed Trundle will be at bot side, so they started to open a 2v1 fight, but the truth was it was 2v2. Ezreal was already so behind in CS and XP, and Dynamics managed to have an even fight on the top side, so we can say that Dynamics was in a huge lead in the very early phase of the game. And with this huge gap from the AD carry players, the game was pretty much over right there. So in short, Dynamics won the jungler mind game, and they were able to snowball it throughout the game. Even though Africa managed to get some of the winning team fights, Dynamics was strong enough to hold on and explode the enemy nexus. Now let's check out the POG of today's game.
킬 자체가 아주 많이 발생해서 아 이거 누구다라고 딱 느껴지는 그런 흐름은 아니긴 했는데
덕담 on Aphelios.
사실 여기에 저희가 뭐 지표를
Dogdam got his first POG of the split in his first season in LCK.
막 강타 싸움 치열한 가운데서 본인이 드래곤 바로 막
Well, Dogdam was the one that actually won the smite fight between the junglers during the Baron try, and also Dogdam was strong enough to zone out all 5 players on the Africa side. So while 3 of the Dynamics players were on Keen, Dogdam was just pushing out the rest of the Africa players by himself. So there are some of the risky players that pull off some of the risky plays on Aphelios, even though when he's super fast, but Dogdam was so consistent throughout the game. Africa tried really hard to go to the backline and melt down Aphelios, but it didn't work right. Dogdam picking up 7 votes out of 12, he closed out the series on their side. Then let's check out whether Dynamics will get a series win today, or will Africa turn the game around.
Thank you very much, Jisun, for your analyst desk translation once again. Guga was 100% robbed. I don't know. I mean, Dogdam, I think his biggest achievement No, that's not true. He played well, but Guga was just so good, hitting hook after hook, in control of that bottom lane, interrupting the back of Mystic as well was absolutely huge.
Yeah.
In that moment.
The reasons they gave for Duckdom's MVP was that he won a smite fight and he was able to zone people with Calibrum. I mean, that's Aphelios, not Duckdom, right? He had good positioning, but it didn't really feel to me like
he
was
lost a
main.
team fight because of bad positioning, actually.
Yeah. So I don't see it, but there was one other, well, actually the other vote for the English/Chinese vote. I'm not sure exactly who that is. I guess a Chinese analyst.
I like to think that it's
Probably.
Vincent from the LPL broadcast because
Probably.
he's my mate.
Yeah. It must be him.
Yeah.
And then there was one other savant on the Korean broadcast. We're never going to know who it is, but maybe we can ask in the break. But either way, it kind of was. It was one of those games where it wasn't really a player of the game pop-off moment. It was kind of like a team as a whole played really well together. Like,
Yeah.
I think the analyst desk did a really good job of highlighting the rotations and the macro plays that Team Dynamics did to allow the bot lane to win so hard and to allow, to stop counter ganks and stuff like that. The one play with the Trundle after going in for the blue was very important. So definitely do feel like as a team, Team Dynamics deserved to win that one.
Yep.
And here we go. We're going into game 2. As Afrika say, well, Syndra's not very good. We don't want to see that pick anymore. Let's ban it ourselves.
They don't like champions that start with S, apparently. Set also going to be taken away. The Varus ban was instantaneous, as it should be. On red side, first ban every single time around. They are once again going to ban the Twisted Fate away from Fly. Fly is certainly a mastery player and has obviously been putting in a lot of time on the TF. Also was historically a TF player. Of course, all of our players that have been in the LCK for a long time, certainly known for Twisted Fate play. As Afrika will take away the Trundle, first pick here for Spirit. And let's see what Dynamics do to counteract that. And Karma is still left up. Oh my god.
Karma Aphelios, perhaps.
You go Karma Aphelios. There's actually a lot that you could do here in the second pick, though.
Yeah, it depends on what they prioritize in terms of, do they want to take away the Aphelios? Is that a really high prioritization? I mean, getting Karma here is really great. I think for the team as a whole, we talked about how that's great. They're going to pick up Ezreal here, which, again, you were talking about they do like the Ezreal versus Aphelios lane, just 80 carry versus 80 carry. But now you're giving Afrika the draft that you just won with, and I don't really like that idea, to be honest with you, Max.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan either. In fact, Afrika have just taken 3 of the champions they just lost to.
Yeah.
But Dynamics, this is the Ultra Flex. This is what you do. You try and run it back with your enemy's comp after you just destroyed them playing the same comp. The one big difference is Karma. And Karma is... there's a saying for it. I'm not going to repeat it on the broadcast, but they are going for the serious salty run back with the Graves being locked in for Beyond this time. This is a champion that really does feel like a Beyond-style champion. Beyond likes to get into the enemy jungle, get around, and really ruin some things. But let's see what happens in the second half of the draft. Is the Wukong going to be taken away from Keen?
Yeah, I feel like this kind of happens because both teams have a very good understanding of like which champions are really high tier and really strong right now and what kind of matchups you want. Because Afrika responded in similar fashion. They ended up with a slightly worse draft we were talking about, and now Dynamics responded in a very similar fashion, except this time they get the Karma. The Yuumi, though, did so much work for Afrika in game number 1, it just kind of didn't matter because the Aphelios was too strong. So I'm curious to see how Dynamics are going to use their last couple of picks to make a different outcome happen from game number 1, because there are ways. You know, we just saw Dynamics composition crush hard in game number 1, but doesn't have to look exactly like that when it comes down to the play. And also, we do have a couple of picks left over here. So, Corki has 0 taken away.
Really
Although,
interesting.
again, I think Kuzan might just play Karma.
Yeah, okay. Kuzan or Rich on their famous Lucian in that mid lane. I absolutely love this, because now you're still triflexing both Karma and Lucian in this moment. You actually don't know where a lot of these things are going. I mean, I guess Lucian is more of a dual flex because the Ezreal's already locked in, but still, everything is well and truly up in the air. And now Keen and Fly both going to be blind picking into their respective solo lanes. This is the Keen Mordekaiser. He destroyed on this champion, was actually very, very good last time we saw it. And my God, this is a burly composition if this Galio does come in. And there it is. So now let's see where we're putting all the pieces. I could imagine mid Lucian's probably feeling like a really good idea right now because you crush the Galio in the early stages of the game. So it might just be a Mordekaiser style counter pick as no, it's not. That is going to be the Leona locked in for the Leona Ezreal combination. And we've got the top lane Lucian out of Rich. I actually really like this, because Lucian also does very well into the Mordekaiser.
Yeah, the Lucian was good into either solo lane, and Kuzan is great onto the Karma, so you see that coming in there. They definitely had a decision to flex it and maybe throw the Karma down bottom side to provide a little bit of support against the melee support that Nautilus, that Ben is running in the Nautilus here on the left side. I'm not really sure about this Leona. I mean, we saw a little bit of this in MSC, where Lumao was just spamming the Leona and had a lot of trouble with these tanky compositions, where it's great against Aphelios if you can catch Aphelios, but we've all seen how difficult that is, especially with 4 tanky members in front of you. And even Keen can, you know, maybe lock you down. He can peel really well for the Aphelios, and then all of a sudden the Leona's gone. I don't know. I feel like Afrika kind of got the better of this one, Atlas.
And absolutely, as far as subjugation is concerned, Leona is probably one of the best subjugate targets in the game. You just wait for her to press W, and you get about a bajillion stats. I think that's the official number for the amount of stats that you get. That being said, this is a mid-game composition to be reckoned with in a lot of ways, and the lane kingdom possibilities certainly are going to be there out of Team Dynamics. So definitely a different style of play, and if they can keep up their macro performance and add a little bit more aggression, this could be a Dynamics 2-0. But I think if Afrika are going to win, it's definitely with this comp rather than their last one.
Yeah, definitely does feel that way. At least Rich is going to do the right thing. He's going to pick up the cull early up against the melee in the top lane and try to get very far ahead. Now, we saw Deft playing Lucian yesterday, and I remember in that draft, it was first picked by DRX, and we were groaning over it. We're like, oh, man, I don't know about this. DRX might have just punted the draft, but
it's the bullet hell.
What eventually happened was they had Yuumi, they had so much support for the Lucian, and they were against a composition that, you know, Genji eventually drafted that were coming directly into them. So the Lucian is great at skating around all those CC tanks and just chunking them down, and also repositioning to get into a backline if you have that access against what he's going against. I mean, the lane is going to be good, but eventually once these people get really tanky, I'm not sure how much work he's going to be able to do, because he might just be zoned away or just essentially shut down. Rich actually gets the better of that one.
Yeah, but he does have to take Relentless Pursuit instead of Piercing Light. I'm so used to saying Piercing Darkness now that I confuse myself with that ability. Oh, dang it, Santa. That's okay. Just will mean that he is not going to be able to shove the wave as quickly in the early stages, which is exactly what Lucian likes to do. Put on as much pressure as possible in the top lane. If you guys were watching MSC, you may have looked at this Lucian top and been like, yeah, this is not what we want to see ever.
Yeah, no.
It was just absolutely awful here in the LCK as well. Lucian top 100% has been a trap every single game. If you watched Challenger's career last season, you would have the opposite impression. This is a champion that, you know, Rich was considered a 2-trick. If he was on Lucian or Aatrox, he was considered just godlike. So you can see the zoning has began, but Keen's not too worried about it because, of course, all of his minions are just going to crash towards him. So Rich, it is 2 CS to 11, but that will be alleviated pretty soon, as Beyond is going to skirt past the vision towards this red buff.
Much more satisfied by Beyond's jungle pathing in this game. We talked about how the red to blue, it's not great, especially for Graves. I mean, you don't necessarily need any kind of cooldown reduction, right? They were talking, Ellis was talking about yesterday, the reasons why pros do that kind of jungle pathing where they go red to blue and then full clear. And a lot of them mentioned they didn't want to get invaded, they wanted the extra cooldown reduction for the faster clear. But all that I feel like is not really necessary, especially for Graves. But he might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Yep, might have to flash, does so. As Fly also going to have to flash out of there as Kuzan was coming in. Rich moving on down here, and that's what happens when you have top pressure. Spirit's in trouble, and he is going to be taken down. And the coordination on the emote spam, absolutely beautiful. And the coordination of Team Dynamics, also very similar.
Rich having the priority from top lane. He's got a lot of mobility on the Lucian. He's going to get there first. The Graves is going to, he's not going to be the easiest target to just burst down with a level 3 Galio and level 3 Trundle, right? It's not like you're going to pop over the wall and pop him like a balloon. That's just not really going to happen against a double buff Graves. And it was on their side of the map, too, so that was a very risky kind of forced play that Team Dynamics responded perfectly to. That's going to get them a really nice edge in this early game. Really got to hand it to them. Team Dynamics already off to a great start.
Yep, looking really good. Fly going to get stunned up here in the mid lane, but he's not too worried at the moment. This is not the kind of matchup that we were describing before. If it's Lucian mid versus Galio, then yes, that's a lot of pressure on the Galio. Karma doesn't offer a lot of that pressure, but now without his flash, it could be rough, as our Fly did get that flash very, very fast taunt.
Yeah, it's like even if the Justice Punch hits and they are able to do a little bit of combo, they're not going to kill Graves. And Karma's right there. Okay, so he sees them, able to dash, and then Karma immediately gives him a shield. Like, you're never killing this guy. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And also, he had all of his grit stacked up anyway. So he had a lot of extra tankiness. I think, yeah, it was just definitely opportunistic. And if you calculate the risk-reward, I think that was only ever going to be like a 20% chance of success. But you lose so much by Spirit dying so early, losing his double buffs before he had any opportunity to use them.
Double scuttle goes the way of Beyond. He's going to get massively ahead on the Graves, which loves early kills. Spirit now is going to desperately try to make a gank work. Rich just says, I'll flash away.
And also didn't have Relentless Pursuit. Of course, the cooldown very high at this stage of the game, and used it just to get out of the Death's Grasp, so very good timing on the gank from Spirit. Meanwhile, bottom side of the map, Guga not going to be taking too much damage. Thank you very much to Eclipse, but now Mystic does find the double stun. Doctum has been ignited. Ben in trouble. He has to flash away as Doctum's just standing his ground against Mystic here. Not going to fall down. Doctum also going to walk away as the teleports now come in from everyone. Rich grabs that first kill. The Obliterate goes down on top of him. Doctum desperately trying to come back into the fight, but he's not going to be able to. Flash forward as Keen puts him in the Death Realm, and obliterated is the Ezreal. Hit level 6 at exactly the right time there as Afrika do find themselves the advantage.
Thankfully, Afrika, they still have Keen because they needed a little bit of a bailout in the bottom side on a trade that nearly went wrong. And Keen was able to essentially outskill them to pick up that extra kill on the backside and shut down the Ezreal, as multiple teleports were used in that play to secure that kill, but I think it still is pretty worth for the side of Afrika, as now we might have a gank here.
Yep, no flash available there, and the dredge line is going to land. Fantastic pillar from Spirit as well. Very dead is Kuza.
Nice. We're able to turn that one around, as good roam timing from Ben is going to get him in position there to shut down the Karma with the flash that you mentioned. They do lose the first Drake once again, though, as Beyond is just really far ahead in the jungle here. Able to just go ahead, full farm out everything, and also pick up an objective for his team. And really, it is only the CS gap in mid and jungle that is keeping Dynamics ahead in the gold after Afrika just had that nice play.
Yep, end of the line coming on in here as Beyond doesn't have his smite. So just going to help, I guess, Spirit clear out that camp. But yeah, I think that Keen getting a kill and an assist is actually huge because the Lucian, especially from top lane, really needs to get ahead. But let's have a look at how this went. It was very close in the 2v2.
Yeah, Peleos, pretty fun champ, able to get a double Varus ultimate there at level 4. But at the end of the day, actually, because they were just running straight into Ezreal Leona, they have a lot of single target damage, and Ben didn't have Aftershock, so he was an easy kill. And then Duckdom and Cougar, they're out of the fight. They didn't need to get in there. They
actually
were
thought
lingering around.
Yeah, they actually thought that the Mordekaiser wasn't going to have ult, but he hit level 6 as he killed Rich, which is why he was able to put the Ezreal into the death realm. So
yeah,
just great play from Keen. It's what we come to expect from this guy. And will he be able to effectively put a Freaka on his back is going to be the question. And I feel like it's just always the question with a Freaka. How strong is Keen's back today?
Exactly. It's really just up to what Keen can do as a player, as Dynamics are going to try to force this fight.
Yeah, and they forced the flash out of Spirit very early. Subjugate not going to be nearly enough as Keen gets chunked by the True Shot Barrage. Ezreal's in the mid lane though, and Mystic's getting some free time here. And that's definitely going to be good news here for the Aphelios, as Afrika certainly more happy to scale this time around. But you can see Dynamics still pushing further and further ahead. As far as the gold is concerned, and it looks like Duckdom is going to be able to get back down to the bottom lane as we're spamming some emotes.
Kuzan queued up instead of queuing the minions that were there just free for the taking. I'd love to see the collective's take on what, the 200 IQ reason why he may not have pushed it right there.
I have a feeling that the collective's take is probably just Keck W.
Yeah, it's a very good take.
Yeah.
I don't blame you if that's your take. But yeah, I think it was just a little bit of a mistake there. They exchange some emoticons. They're very good friends there in the mid lane, and then they back away. So shouldn't matter too much. We'll see how this game does continue from here. The mid and jungle are still massively ahead for Team Dynamics, and even though Keen did get that kill and assist, Rich up here with 2 kills of his own is not doing so bad for himself. Might get ganked here, though.
Might. Yep, he absolutely will get ganked as he's put into the death round. Not a lot that Spirit can do here. Just try and back things up as now Rich is trying to win this 1v1 against Keen, but the W's still there, guys. He was always going to die, and Keen was always going to be fine.
Yeah, Keen easily able to solo them there, essentially, and then just a follow-up to zone him up against the pillar and get that last couple of autos. So nice little play there. Really playing around Keen. I like it. Can't fault it if you're a Freaka. It is going to, as kind of a after effect, give a little bit of extra farm over to Beyond, which is not half bad. As Graves is going to be very nice if he can go probably Black Cleaver, I guess, against this many tanks and also a lot of auto attackers on his team that aren't going to be getting Black Cleaver. I think in this case, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I would like to see Umbral Glaive as well, because I think that being able to stay on top of the vision game is going to be very important. One of the reasons why Graves can be very strong, even in a utility sense. But Shelly's going to spend some time here towards the bottom lane. Duckdom is going to do his darndest to avoid losing all of the plates on his turret, but not going to be enough there, as Mystic does get that third one. It's a lot of extra money going over to the Aphelios. I'd like to see that gold graph to see just how far ahead he is. Because yes, it's 5 CS, but 1-0-1 plus all those turret plates will mean that Mystic's in a very comfortable position moving into the mid-game. Keen still yet to find this first turret plate top side, but it should be, in theory, Rich having all of them in this matchup. It's just been very good by Spirit to play around Keen, make sure he has the best time. Speaking of which, let's check out this kill top.
예, 반피. 해, 프리스 반피야. 앞으로 10초. 나이스.
He was saying like
탑에 전령 깔아도 될 것
1 second.
Yep, and also, as you saw, his W was available that whole time, which is just a lot of shielding and then a lot of healing.
Mordekaiser, fun champion when you get ahead.
Yep. My favorite champion.
Yes.
In his earlier iterations, to be perfectly honest. But many of you will not actually know what that champion did, because it was many years ago now.
We got the boomer cast here.
Yeah, 100%.
It's been a while.
I liked it when you could use Mace of Spades and it'd break off into 2 other things and hit people. That was fun.
Well, the Mordekaiser was used there just to secure Ocean Drake, and that actually did let a little bit of pressure up in the top side for Rich to take down a plate of his own, go back, finish that plate of the Rune King, as that is going to be a very effective item against the team that they're going up against. A lot of health stacking that could potentially come out of not only the Nautilus and Trundle, but even Mordekaiser and Galio, depending on the items that they build. We'll have to see what Ezreal's item path is going to be. I would expect, pretty standard for the first couple, but we'll see if he goes Death's Dance, or maybe he tries to go for something like Blade of the Rune King, or even Leandry's early on.
Yeah, I think
that LS has been talking about a lot.
Good old Leandry's Ezreal. Salesman does certainly need a bit of a mention. I think that, the classic Death's Dance third item with the Iceborne Gauntlet is still going to be very strong. But it's the fourth item that is going to be very interesting to find out. Docdome is going to utilize his Arcane Shift very well there as Spirit moves down towards the bottom side to add a bit more pressure. Spirit has been everywhere this game, by the way. Certainly utilizing this Trundle very, very well. True Shot Barrage will clear out the minion wave pretty well. Dynamics retain their lead, but it is only by 100 gold now. As Kuzan once again into the nether goes the Q.
Yeah, the heal there from Fly. He wants to get his TP back with the Unsealed Spellbook.
Yep.
There's so much focus in the bottom side by Afrika. They should be able to get this, although...
Yeah, in goes Guga, looking for it. Solar Flare's good, and they just blow up Spirit instantly. Teleport's now coming through thick and fast as Ben down to about half health. There's the culling, soaked by Fly, but that's not what you want as Keen teleports in. Death Realm is going to be there, and immediately he puts Beyond in and tries to take him down. Will be sacrificed, though, as now Guga might be his second target, but the Inspire Shield's going to be too strong, and Keen will fall down. A lot of extra money now into the hands of Docdome as he gets 450 for that kill. As Mystic and Ben, they were just focusing on the minion wave more than anything else. As I think as the dust settles, certainly worked out very well for Dynamics off Guga's engage.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a fight we're going to have to really pick apart the replay because there were so many teleports that came in, but just the bait there, okay.
Yeah, flash in onto Mystic. He cleanses, he flashes, tries to get out of there. Fantastic stopwatch from Ben to buy some time as Spirit moves on in. Oh, the Moonlight Vigil lands as Mystic looking for the activation, but doesn't quite get there. Spirit dives in. Guga goes golden, and Kuzan is going to zone Spirit out, and Inspire is one hell of an ability. And Guga, of course, is going to escape with what looked like half health in the end.
Yeah.
Like what?
I know, he is having a fun time down there. The stopwatch usage out of Guga was split second, but it was massive to keep him alive and get even another kill for Team Dynamics after that entire play. So lots of action down on the bottom side with so many teleports in this game. But it was the bait out of Team Dynamics and then the earlier teleport out of Rich to enable them to really take the foothold, the beginning of that fight, and then Afrika were kind of just coming in one by one on their teleports or just in the lane, and they kind of got caught out. And even though Keen did trade one back, I mean, that's just kind of Mordekaiser things. So still definitely very big wins on the side here for Team Dynamics.
Oh, it's even bigger than that, Valdanalist, because look at the items that Docdome picks up. He had Sheen tiered, and now he has 2 full items.
He gained a lot from that. There's no question.
My God, he's so strong now.
Yeah, I don't know what his score was before that fight, but it might have just been 0-1. I
think it was like that. 0-1-1 or 0-1-2 or something.
Yeah. So absolutely stacking up the cash after that one.
Yeah. Keen's going to be able to clear out this minion wave very well. Mystic also takes down this turret bottom lane. That is going to be first of the game, which will get Afrika back up to decent standing when it comes to the gold. But with the Rift Herald going down, surely will help Dynamics get more back. Kuzan trying to clear out a wave down here, but doesn't actually have the mantra, and will just lose an inner turret as well. So one of the first times we've seen Dynamics make a blunder macro-wise. Just underestimating Mystic's ability to rip apart a turret.
Yeah, it was a combination. I think Beyond was up with a Rift Herald, and so Afrika said maybe we can get this. Nice pillar here, though.
Yeah, in goes Guga. 2 people hit by that True Shot Barrage as we're trying to use that Shield of Daybreak to bring down Fly. Gets the flash out there as Kuzan moving on in. You can see the AoE coming through, and Dokdam is very strong. They have to be careful. Supply continues to get zoned out. Remember, he does have the heroic entrance as Rich off to the side, gets dredge line. Will have to try and get out of there if there's no opportunity. The ulti comes forward, and now Team Dynamics, I don't think they're going to have an opportunity to fight for this Infernal. It's going to be the second Drake going over to Afrika. The first Infernal of the game. Afrika just got a whole bunch stronger.
Yeah, generally you don't want to walk through wards directly into the Nautilus composition. That's a pretty big mistake by Rich. Probably thought that there wasn't any vision, but let's see how far we go back. Okay, we're going into this. Yeah, I mean, he sees he's hitting them, and then he runs straight into the Nautilus, and immediately that makes it 4v5. And it's pretty, you know, cut and dry from there. You know, Team Dynamics aren't going to force a 4v5. They're not that far ahead. And Afrika knew that the Infernal was there, so immediately after that mistake, they're just able to scoop that one up. Even though the fight did look pretty nice to start with for Team Dynamics, that Leona actually doing quite a nice amount of work. And their ability to chase down with Leona Karma is not to be underestimated, as we saw in that one.
Yep, pretty point and click when it comes to the CC. But see whether Dynamics can tidy it up just a little bit, because they are on the clock. Mystic is getting scary, and you can see he's got a lot of gold as well. Actually 1.2k ahead of Dokdam, who did have a bounty on his head, still does in fact. Shirley's still available though, so Dynamics should be able to utilize her to knock down a turret. As Kuzan goes back to base, he's coming out with his Ardent Sensor completed. Dynamics don't really look like they have the same level of control that they had in the first game. And it's looking a little bit like they're the ones to start the Flounder. Rich once again in dangerous territory, but does have some control wards to walk through. Double control ward to come down into this brush. As Afrika, they want to fight. Taunt only lands onto Rich, who gets hit by the Moonlight Vigil as well, but in goes Guga looking for it. Oh my god! Death Realm put through immediately. As Keen is looking to try and take him down. I don't know whether he's going to be able to get him in time though, as Keen gets stunned, eventually finds the kill. And now Afrika are trying to look for this fight beyond. Dives forward. Looking in a little bit of trouble here, as that's the Mantrid Inspire, as Dokdam misses the Q, and Keen is going to be able to pull him back with that Death's Grasp. Shirley, an afterthought here, put down into the mid lane. Relatively low health bars, but Keen deceptively tanky.
What is that damage? What is going on? He didn't even hit the eye. He's like, just gonna 5-shot Shirley. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a nice amount of AoE he's able to do there with the bunched up minions.
Did you notice I was trying my best not to talk about Aphelios? Because I feel like as soon as I do that, I may as well stop talking.
I know, he's just
and Aphelios existed.
So gross right now in today's meta. Not sure why he's never banned, but starts off really good. And then the interesting thing that I even learned from this one is that Keen is so far ahead now that he's like, I dare any one of you to engage. You're going to die. I don't care who it is, if it's Guger, if it's anyone else. Everybody else is less tanky. And then you can see they're able to just get out there after Guger dies, as Keen punished him in the Death Realm, just netting himself another free kill is what it feels like, and allowing his team to scale even further. Keen's really far ahead. Aphelios, Mystic is really far ahead. They're just in an awesome spot here, especially after getting that last Infernal. And even after what looked like a great, you know, absorption of the Afrika engage into re-engage from Team Dynamics, it still kind of fell flat just because of how fed the two carries on the side of Afrika are. And I mean, it kind of does go back to the draft once again. I'm not sure why these Korean teams love the Ezreal into the Aphelios. It was just another lane that didn't go very well for the Ezreal. And once again, the Aphelios is just doing a million times more when it comes to the team fights. And we haven't even seen the full extent of it yet, because just wait for the late game. I mean, we're only 22 minutes in.
Yeah. And I mean, Ezreal is a very strong late game carry, right? And this is something that we've spoken about. But unfortunately, the amount of nuke potential out of an Aphelios is never something that an Ezreal can compete with.
Yeah.
Because the reason why he's so strong late game is because of the Iceborne Gauntlet in combination with Death's Dance. It's so hard to kill the Ezreal, but it's not actually if you're an Aphelios, because you just kill anyone.
Ezreal is also much harder to play, right? Just like straight up. We're watching Duckdom here in the mid lane, and he has missed like 5 Qs in a row.
Yeah.
6. Make it 6. Like, if your Ezreal is not hitting poke,
Well, barrage, you hit that one.
Right?
That's a lot of damage. Culling comes down. Good solar flare is going to land onto Fly as once again Keen immediately puts Guga into the death realm, but this time he does have the Gargoyle Stone Plate. Keen diving on in, still trying to do what he can. Goes golden. Guga still flashing out of the way as so far this is a great fight for Dynamics, and Doctam should be able to clean up. Mystic though, still alive. Always scary. But not going to be able to go in now as the front line has been wiped out.
Yeah, pretty interesting there. I mean, that looked like a very similar fight to the last one that we just had on the left river brush, but that time around the damage was able to go onto the first target. I feel like Keen's ultimate was a little bit late, and also the damage concentration out of Team Dynamics was much better, and once they got that first pick, they do what their comp is great at, which is, you know, just shelling a huge amount of damage into one target. As well, nice try.
And I think now we need to talk about LS, because in this particular moment, he would have been extraordinarily upset. Because the trade for Baron when Soul Point Infernal was available is a very weird decision to make. But let's have a look at this team fight first.
Yeah, it's Ben getting super low. He actually dies to Ignite. And Keen wasn't actually able to do the job. You actually pointed out that now Guga is much tankier than the last fight even though it was only about 2 minutes separation because of the stone plate that he was able to pick up, and there was a lot more room for him to run. So Keen wasn't able to get the job done. Also, Ben died early. They won the fight, and then they threw the Infernal Drake over to Afrika, who scales better, loves the percentage damage extra they get from the Infernal, and I don't think they're really scared of a Baron push here. Like, what are they really going to lose? Maybe a couple of turrets, and then they're on Soul Point. This is even, I feel, more egregious than yesterday's play.
I actually thought yesterday's play had some merit. Like, there is a way to argue it, right? Because what DRX did was they got a 5,000 gold Baron power play and were then insurmountably
They got
ahead.
massively far ahead.
Yeah, but I don't know whether this is... Yeah.
And I think we're both on the same page here. I don't know if this is really going to be worth it for Team Dynamics this time around.
Rich doesn't have a QSS, actually, so it's a little bit more difficult for him to play in this lane up against Keen.
What's the name of the AoE gun? I always forget. Infernum, okay. Because it looks like snowballs to me, so I'm like, there's no it can be Infernum, right? That's the opposite of cold snowballs, but I don't know.
Ooh, if Doctam actually hit that Q, Mystic may have had to go home. But hindsight's 20/20. Not going home this time.
Look at how difficult it is for Team Dynamics to force, with Baron, getting this one turret. They finally are able to pull it down as Duckdom is beginning to hit his skill shots.
Oh god, Fly has been found. Solar Flare is going to miss though. Gets a bit of a slow, but otherwise Fly is going to get out using the Blast Cone. Duckdom going to keep himself okay, and Relentless Pursuit's pretty good here for Rich. Infernal Drake up in 2.5 minutes, and due to Team Dynamics' own volition, they have opted in to always having to look at that timer and always be around that Drake pit.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the idea where it's like, well, you get further ahead in gold and in stats and in XP with the Baron, and then it'll make the fights easier around the Infernal Drake. But it's definitely risky because it can be stolen away, and you can, if you make one mistake, you might just lose the game.
Yeah.
So why not go for the safer play, which is to go for the Infernal, and then with the extra strength from the Infernal, you know, maybe take another team fight and then take the Baron. But the teams here are not going to follow that line of thinking, and we'll see if Team Dynamics can recreate how that last fight went, because I think if they stun one target and they just blow all of their damage, because they have an insane amount of burst damage with Ezreal, Graves, Lucian, just the 3 of them, not to mention Karma nukes, as she's now got her 3 items really fast, as she does.
Yep.
That one target is going to get blown up. So if they can do that once again, it doesn't really matter who it is, even if it's Ben with his stone plate. I mean, maybe if he's got that full stone plate stack, it's going to be a little bit harder. But if they can do that, if they can isolate one target and burst him down, they can win a fight once again. But that Aphelios effect, still in effect. He didn't die. He's 2-0-1. He is very close to his Death's Dance as well.
Well, speaking of Death's Dance, Docdime just completes his. We've got Rich very close to collecting his one as well. And with 52 seconds, I would recommend Rich going back home, collecting that item, assuming that he can afford it. And then having a big power spike moving into the next fight. Because Death's Dance is actually ridiculous when you have it in conjunction with shields. Because you know that that staggered damage is coming in, so the shield becomes even more valuable. Because that burst is far less likely to happen.
Yeah, it's great with effective healing. And we're going to take a look at the gold graph. That's what happens when you lose a team fight and then the Baron. So that's really...
Is it going to be enough, though? Because now is the opportunity for a Freaker to win the game, basically. 14 seconds time, that's going to be a really rough one. As Beyond immediately going to utilize his QSS that he's picked up, as now Ben looking for Docdime, gets the depth charge, doing a lot of work as Guga finds himself into the backline, but he's by himself, not actually able to start the fight. But look at the culling, just eating through a Freaker, and Beyond is frontlining as this Graves. He's punished for it, but he's able to quick draw out as, oh my god, 200 years of punishment. As he is able to take down Guga, and Rich has to be careful. Dredgeline's not going to find it, but Mystic does. That is so much damage as the teleport's now coming in. Dynamics trying to keep themselves okay, but Beyond is definitely dead. Dredgeline is going to secure it, as now Kuzan looking for an opportunity, but Fly goes into his Zhonya's, and now Keen gets in. Good night, sweet Kuzan, as Docdime finds himself without any teammates. Arcane shifts over the wall. Rich teleports back in as he had survived, but now it's Infernal Soul, and this Dynamics is something that you could have avoided.
This is why. I'm glad we get the perfect example, because even though Team Dynamics were so far ahead,
unless they just... Oh my...
That was close.
That was pretty close,
That was
actually,
close. Now, even though they were so far ahead, they lose a very close team fight, even though they had all this extra gold, and now they might just lose the game because they're up against Infernal Soul. Now they're going to lose the next team fight so much harder that I'm not sure if they'll have a chance. As you can see, this team fight was just so close. You look at Guga frontlining, and Team Dynamics, I feel like the tanks on Afrika did a great job of soaking up so much of this damage. I mean, you even see Fly going in there just sponging back. And then we're all reintroduced to Mr. 200 Years.
Oh my god.
You gotta call him Sir after this team fight. And, I mean, he's full health. He's gonna root you. He's gonna AoE your entire team. He is untouchable, basically, until Docdime nearly assassinates him.
Yeah, I mean, if he had have done that, then that would have actually been teamfight over. But unfortunately, they kept trying to do what they could to take down Mystic.
Full health again, by the way.
Yeah, Death's Dance is pretty good, as it turns out.
Just AoEs, the minion wave goes from 20% health to 100, as if he didn't need any more utility.
Well, Dredgeline not going to be able to find too much, as another Solar Flare is going to go into Narnia. As, yeah, damage dealt to champions, pretty Aphelios-centric, is it not?
Yeah, that's just 5 members of Team Dynamics trying to kite and damage tanks, and then they're all grouped up, and Aphelios presses 2 or 3 buttons, and all of a sudden your entire team is at lower than half health. It is pretty insane what that guy can do.
Yeah, Rich, unfortunately, not actually building a QSS. I actually think that QSS is pretty important in this game, and they have 3 already. Guga collecting his is really good because he's, in fact, the sole frontline for his team. So now Afrika possibly going to get flanked here by a Lucian, as Dredgeline once again not going to find the mark. As Keen, yeah, he's just going to throw out a Death Realm and see whether he can kill Kuzan, who will have an Inspire Shield. Obliterate, not quite enough there, as Kuzan throws some damage back. The culling, once again going to be good, but once again, Mystic does do a lot of work. But they do have very low health bars. Beyond almost just gets 2 hit by this Aphelios, as Ben's going to go down. Heroic entrance, not quite enough there, as Docdime's going to grab him. Mystic, he's going to answer back, but is it going to be enough? The answer is no for now, as Rich is off to the side. True Shot Barrage almost takes down Keen. Mystic gonna gameplay them to death though, as you can see. Relentless Pursuit's gonna have to get him out of there as, oh no, killed by the Death Stance. Not what you want. He tried to get the lifesteal onto those Raptors, but it wasn't enough. And this feels like a real uphill battle for Dynamics.
And you can see that their composition still has a little bit of a chance when it comes to kiting them down in these sustained team fights where Aphelios isn't just able to burst your entire team. They're pretty well spread out. Kuzan's able to survive. Guger does a great job of soaking all this damage. And then the fun begins for Team Dynamics. Everybody's separated. Nobody's taking that AoE damage. Mystic desperately gonna try to burst him down. He doesn't even get Beyonds there. And they're able to kite them out so nicely. Ben has to be careful about just mindlessly engaging from here. And if those 2 Qs hit from Duckdom plus the ultimate, this is why I was talking about how hard Ezreal is, because the entire team fight can be decided based on whether or not you're hitting 1 or 2 Qs.
Yeah. That's actually hard to watch.
If he hits them, I think that Team Dynamics might still even win.
That was an ace.
Infernals.
If he hit all of those Qs, that was an ace.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he didn't. And so now, Infernal Soul not actually looking like it's doing a massive amount to swing these fights in the favor of Afrika, but you best believe that it is adding a hell of a lot of stats to this team. And you may look and see Dynamics as ahead. You're talking about battle stats and the value that Afrika has as far as damage. It's certainly going to be well and truly in their advantage. Keen now has a Thornmail. This is something that a lot of people have been calling for against multiple Death's Dance users. Certainly works out effectively.
Yeah. And this has turned into the battle of the 80 carries. Can Mystic get that follow-up and AoE down the entire enemy team? Or is Duckdom going to just chip you down with 2 or 3 Qs and essentially, you know, chip away at Aphelios? That's part of the reason why people like him against Aphelios, is that if Aphelios has nothing to lifesteal off of and you hit, you know, 2-3 Qs, you arcane shift forward, and all of a sudden Aphelios is at 20 HP, and then you start a fight, it can be a little bit difficult for the Aphelios comp to actually work. As Afrika gonna just push in here into mid.
Yeah, we're still sieging an outer turret, by the way. It's pretty ridiculous at this stage of the game. 35 minutes in, the culling just used to soften up the members of Afrika while the Dynamics outer turret finally will fall down. And Elder Drake is looking like it's going to be the next target. All of the vision available here for Afrika. They should be able to just move towards it and start a fight on their terms. As Rich trying to keep Keen at bay. Dynamics thinking of potentially trading for a Baron. Don't know whether you ever want to do that, guys.
No, please don't.
Elder Drake is pretty good. Not an analyst like you, Valdanalist.
Oh.
I think Elder Drake is pretty good in comparison to the Baron.
Yeah, you are correct. I think that Team Dynamics have kind of messed up their positioning here, and they've gotten zoned to the left side. Now they're going to say, oh, we need this red buff before we start. But look at Keen. He's just going to solo it. And if they lose the Elder against Aphelios, I mean, you might as well just type out the GG right now.
That True Shot Barrage did not find Keen, who, like you say, is soloing out this Elder Drake. Dynamics are not going to be able to get here, just straight up. It's down to 4,000 health. Rich coming on in. Ben is in a little bit of trouble, as the rest of Dynamics will get here, so it's likely to be a 50-50. The culling flies in, but the Elder Drake is taken by Afrika. Feels like it's all but over as the Aphelios is doing work, but it's 1-for-1 so far. Both supports are falling down. Rich trying to win this fight against Keen, but he's not going to be able to. Not a chance, as now Dynamics 3 versus 4. Infernal Soul and Elder Drake, both available. And if they can't win here, they shouldn't win ever.
Yeah, I mean, Team Dynamics, they were looking so clean in game number 1 and seemed to have a really good understanding of macro and stuff, but here in game 2, they have faltered a bit to the might that is Mr. 200 Years, as Ezreal has done a just disgusting amount of damage, and he will continue to, as this is really where he does shine. When he's chipping you down, when he's kiting you down and just relentlessly pursuing you, if you will, as Lucian does. Ezreal has learned from his friend, And they are actually going to be able to stop the Baron here. And that Elder buff, you know, it's not the longest at this point in the game. Only 1 minute and 15 left on that one. So if we can just go super late game and Duckdom can single-handedly outplay 5 members, maybe Team Dynamics can win.
It's possible. He does have his Blade of the Ruin King now. We've got mortal reminders coming through for both Beyond and Rich, which might help with the amount of healing that Mystic is going to have available. He's got 6 items though, guys. Felios with 6 items is pretty dangerous. The Solar Flare is going to slow Keen down, but not going to get any stuns. As now, Duckdom, it's like you were talking about, able to pursue. But Afrika still don't look like they're confident to start a fight straight up.
Yeah.
So it's all about second Elder Drake. Valdez?
Yeah.
That's what we need to get to.
It's all about third Elder Drake, actually. The way that this game is going. Are they going to make another attempt here onto the Baron? Because Two-Shot Barrage is going to be up in a moment's notice. Not just yet, but he can easily charge that one up. And we're reaching full builds here.
Yeah, Mystic just going to be melee face tanking this Baron. His control ward goes into the pit. They know exactly what's going on. Ben off to the side as Keen just booking it right into the members of Team Dynamics. He, of course, can do that. Is now Rich trying to soften him up. Another dredge line's going to land. This time onto Guga. Not exactly the target that they want, but he's still going down like he's made of butter. Now Duckdom in the Death Realm, I believe. No, he's not. It's in fact Keen moving on past him, trying to fight Beyond. As Ben is very, very low. Dredgeline not going to find the mark as Rich finds a fantastic culling off to the side, but Beyond is going to fall because Mystic does a hell of a lot of damage, but Dynamics still able to potentially get some work done here, but look, Mystic is still alive. And that is the one thing that you need to worry about, as Afrika finally may have done it. They may have found the game-winning teamfight.
Oh boy, it comes down to this. Keen perfect zoning with that ultimate and gets in the front there with the Zhonyas, and then Duckdom, in a moment of desperation, thinks that he can stand up to Mr. Years, and it does not work out very well. Flashes the wall, immediately gets burst down and dies. And we'll have to wait and see if they can end it from here. There's very long death timers, but not gonna push it.
There's Barons to collect.
There's Elder number 2.
Yep. 2.5 minutes on that. Yeah, this game's going the distance. As Afrika want to make sure that they're not going to throw this one away. And this Baron should definitely be taken down, especially with Severum in the hands of Mystic. Probably not going to take too much damage here. But Dynamics looking to see whether they can actually get over.
Oh.
Fly. Will be able to play Bodyguard. And True Shot for... Oh, man. That was almost scary. Didn't actually do anything in the end. So, Baron taken. They're going to have that in order to secure the next Elder Drake.
Now, watch Keen on the bottom. And I know there's a fight going on the top side. Keen baits Rich out of position and then ults Kuzan. And Rich is kind of like out of position here. Keen in the front line is able to zone them all out like this. So they all have to back away. And that's going to set up this front to back here for Mystic, who's going to move on forward, say hello.
Oh,
you can call me sir from now on.
Blind, by the way.
Yeah.
He was
and then
in
the
a
flash over the
smoke
wall.
screen.
You can't do that, okay? I don't care how close you are to killing Mystic, how close you are to killing Aphelios. You can't do that. You're Ezreal, okay? Don't flash the wall.
I mean, he just needed to hit him with an auto attack, actually.
Well, apparently not.
Yeah.
Or at least
Very
maybe he
trolled my
failed.
vision there. That
And
was
even if
not
he
great.
does, it's like, okay, he's going to immediately die. And then Afrika still win the fight. It's...
Yeah, no, it was a misplay, 100%.
Got to keep your cool.
Yeah.
Up against Mr. 9-0-4 now. Oh, it's just disgusting. He's got 6 items too. I don't see.
Yeah, I don't see any shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see a world in where this Aphelios is going to lose. Rich, what is going on?
He's flashing. He's at least able to get out of there.
He got Ash arrowed there.
He did. As True Shot Barrage is going to help try and take down these minions, but Baron buff is going to mean that it's a much more difficult task than that. Duckdom wants to complete his Mercurial Scimitar for his final item. It's not going to make him strong enough, guys, by the way. Compete with Mystic.
Yeah. The amount of sheer damage that Afrika's composition can soak is unbelievable.
Like
Even
double
Mystic.
Thornmail.
Yeah, double Thornmail. They got so many Death's Dances. The culling does so much damage. Ezreal does so much damage. It doesn't seem to matter because they all just soak it all.
All right, Dynamics, this is your last chance to try and go for anything as Beyond trying to get into this pit. He's going to get towards it, but immediately the Graves falls down. Good night, everyone, as Afrika melts the members of Dynamics. Could it be the quadra kill? Potentially, as Doctum's trying to kite this one out. It's a good arcane shift, but I'm sorry, my friend, it's just not going to be enough. As Keen says, no. That's going to be the ace, finally. Afrika needed a couple of Elders, a Baron, Infernal Soul, all sorts of things in order to take down Dynamics, but in the end, it was pretty comfortable, as the Nexus will fall at 43 minutes, and we're going to a game number 3.
The incredibly powerful Mr. Years there at the end. It's perfect because he gets them all into position and then just AoEs them down like it's nothing. I'm not giving my vote.
Yeah.
I'm not. I refuse.
I know.
I refuse.
I mean, I actually
don't
feel
know who I
like
would give
Kane
it to,
might have played better. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Kane. I mean, ugh. I don't feel great after that one.
No, neither
to
do
be perfectly honest. Afrika, like half the game was both teams sitting mid, and it was like, who's gonna outskill the other one? You know, can we let Ezreal kite us down potentially by fighting here right in the middle of the map? Or are we gonna use, you know, split push ability and Galio, Grand Entrances, stuff like this? It wasn't the greatest game of League of Legends we ever saw, but we've learned one thing from these two games is I don't think Ezreal is better than Aphelios in the draft straight up. Like, even though Doctum showed many times he was close, I'm not really seeing it yet, Atlas.
No, and the stats certainly starting to stack up against good old Ezreal as well. What is he, 1-8 now?
It's 1-9.
1-9, right, because he was in game number 1 as well, and also lost that one. So
Aphelios is, let me take a quick gander,
Yeah.
7-4.
7-4.
So not as good as Trundle, who is, let me take a quick gander, 9-3.
Yeah, he's doing okay. Doing okay, good old Trundle. As, yeah, so Doctum actually did more damage than the Aphelios, but you have a look, like, Mystic was the entire team's damage, basically, apart from when Keen was able to get someone into a Death Realm. But honestly, this game just felt like an inevitability after the decision to go for a Baron instead of an Infernal Drake led to Dynamics having to face Soul Point, having Afrika be able to dictate exactly how teamfights were going to be played out from that point on. And yeah, we saw that DRX made that decision yesterday and it worked, but it's about being able to keep up the snowball, and Dynamics just didn't. They weren't able to.
No, absolutely. I think if Duckdown was a little bit better at Ezreal, we might have seen a different result, right? He was really fed too, but it was just not meant to be in that game too.
It wasn't, but let's see what happens in game number 3. After the break, we will be back to see who wins out of Dynamics and Afrika.
다이나믹스. 전 동료들이 있죠. 쿠잔이랑 리치랑.
플라이 형도 만나게 되는데 그렇게 친하진 않았어요. 진지해서. 약간 독구다이 느낌이랄까? 밥도 막 혼자 먹는 거 좋아하고.
플라이 형 딱히 안 친해가지고.
아, 계속 그랬어요? 저도 그랬거든요.
용준이 형 잘 부탁해요. 보고 싶었어요.
얘들아, 어쩌다 여기에서 만나게 됐네. 잘 해봐라. 아트록스만 하는구나.
탑하는 선수들은 아트록스 못하는 선수 없을걸요?
아트록스 제가 더 잘하는 것 같아요.
딘 선수가 아트록스를 해도 딱히 문제 없을 것 같아요. 제가 평소에 탑에서 나오지 않는 좀 색다른 픽들을 연습 중인데 그런 챔프들을 좀 활용해야 되지 않나.
리치요? 원거리 챔피언 되게 잘 다뤄요. 다재다능?
아 그래요? 뭔지 알 것 같은데. 근데 저는 원거리 챔피언 다 거의 탑으로 써봤어가지고.
딘 선수 제가 아직 신인이지만 그래도 저는 제 실력에 자신이 있기 때문에 한번 붙어가지고 꼭 이겨보도록 하겠습니다. 저는 트록스 왕이니까요.
덕담, 국어, 승.
국어 선수 맞나? 맞죠? 아, 느낌 없으시던데.
이지식 선수는 나이가 좀 차신 것 같고 저희 덕담 선수가 이제 젊은 피기 때문에
아이디가 덕담이에요? 나이 너무 어리실 텐데 지금 좀 잘해 놓으셔서 좋은 선수가 되셨으면 좋겠네요.
네. 바텀이 이겨줘야 돼요. 바텀이 지면 게임을 지거든요.
아 모르겠어. 용준이 자꾸 이 챔피언도 이상한 거 하고 아 뭔가 이상한 변태 같아요 하는 거. 그래서 어깨가 너무 무겁게 만들어요.
믿고 있을게. 알아서 잘하고.
리치선에서 정리. 저야 뭐 그냥 탑라인전 딱 눌러놓고 정글만 먹으면서 보고 있으면 재원이가 알아서 다 혼내줄 것 같아요.
문제 없다.
다이나믹스가 기세 좋게 올라왔잖아요. 흥명전에서. 그런 자신감은 당연하다고 생각해요. 길을 꺾어 보겠습니다.
LCK를 한번 맛보여드리겠습니다.
빠르고 그냥 화끈하게 2대0으로 박살 내버리겠습니다.
We are back after Dynamics versus Africa game number 2. Africa turned the momentum around. So speaking of the draft first, as Rich mentioned, he locked in the reigns champion Lucian. So Dynamics locked in a full AD comp, focusing on mid and late game. Africa on the other side, they went with a very similar comp, just like game number 1. They took the well-balanced comp and threw out a lot of team fights. Even though Dynamics had 3 range champions, well, Africa was able to tank a lot of damage, and also the damage dealers were doing so much work in the backline.